and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of the Rasslin Report. And here's your host, Rated R for Rasslin and Jonesy Chats Wrestling.
Welcome back to the Rasslin Report. Another week. This is episode, I believe it's 9. You kind of lose track of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's episode 9 of the Rasslin Report, and I am joined once again by Jonesy Chats Wrestling. Jonesy, how are you, brother?
Very good. How are you? Yeah, another week gone in wrestling. What a busy week it's been this week. Yeah, again, it's getting crazier and crazier.
Yeah, big time news. The biggest news we all know. We've all heard it. It's Vince McMahon news. That's going to be the first topic we're going to cover. But yeah, that is the biggest news of the week. But we are about exactly 7 days from SummerSlam. So, Jonesy, are you excited?
Yeah, I think it'll be okay. Like it's a middle of the road pay per view, really. Yep. In ring, there's going to be some great matches, but yeah, I'm not really all in on this hype. I don't really see the hype for it, really, to be fair. I think it will be okay. They've got a real good chance after this SummerSlam show to really change the order. I expect we'll get potentially Bayley back and Charlotte, which kind of might change things slightly, which is a bit more exciting, but we need some sort of comeback on the men's. I think they need to make a statement, whether that be Wyndham or something at this pay-per-view, just to get people talking, really, because if you're ending the pay-per-view and Austin Theory's picking up a cheap win with a briefcase, it's not really enough for me, really, in all honesty. This is meant to be your second biggest show of the year, traditionally.
No, correct. Yeah, it doesn't have really much behind it right now. It doesn't seem as cool as other SummerSlams previously have felt. With it being in another football stadium, you would think they would really go all out, but they really can't, I guess, with they put themselves in a corner creatively with all that they've done and who they push and who they haven't pushed. So it's kind of their own doing. But how are the ticket sales looking?
I think I expect they're going to sell some of them out. I don't know sort of how many are going to be sold. I did hear earlier in the week that there may be a chance that some of the fans, one in the building, are going to be facing like another empty section off camera. But it's the way it is, really. When you're serving rematches, like if you look like this, there's a lot of matches that we've seen before. Bianca and Becky, we've seen numerous times. The main event we've seen numerous times. There was a lack of fresh matches here, but I think Seth Rollins and Riddle is going to be a great match, and I think that could potentially save the pay-per-view because I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be a good match. There's only a couple of them there that are really that make you excited, but yeah, a lot of it's just a lot of WrestleMania repeats or just repeats of matches we've seen on Monday Night Raw. Newman Co in the chat. Good morning. Good morning, Newman Co. How are you doing, man? Thank you for joining us. What do you think about the big Vince McMahon news? That's the first topic we're going to get into on today's episode of the Rasslin Report. The Vince retirement. It was announced on Twitter by Vince, the man himself, that he's 77 years old, time to retire. Thank you for everything and all that stuff like that. Now, we all know he's been embroiled in all this controversy, internal investigation done by the board of members, the board of directors in WWE. Now, this all really seems as he stepped down temporarily from the CEO position and was still involved in everything else, day-to-day operations, but just no longer with the title of CEO for the time being. Stephanie took that mantle over, and now he announces his retirement. Seemingly, the board of members probably forced this upon him, saying, look, we're finding stuff. We're not going to be able to save you on this stuff publicly, so if you retire, we'll kind of end the investigation most likely, and nothing else will come of it. Most likely, that's what I assume happened, but it seems like he's been forced to retire, not something he's probably willingly done.
Yeah, I agree. I think you make a great analysis there. Look at the timing. This is going into SummerSlam. I don't think he'd choose to go at this time. It's not exactly the best thing. When you want to get eyes on the product for the right reasons, it isn't the best thing. But a very interesting period in WWE. Clearly, last week we had the TV14 thing that's going. They seem to be definitely going in a bit of a different direction. But for me, I think it sounds pretty chaotic, really. You had Triple H and Stephanie McMahon's name in the mud a few weeks ago. Now they're back almost running the show. And is it going to be that different? Is this going to be Vince McMahon retiring, but still having his hands on the product in certain ways with certain mannerisms and stuff? He may not be there in person, but how much is he going to let them do the direction they want to go in? Really, I would question.
Yeah, it definitely does. Nubico says the Vince McMahon news caught me off by surprise. Yeah, it definitely caught everybody by surprise. Nothing we were expecting. And normally, if you think when Vince was going to retire or if he passed away, and that's the only way he kind of stopped being in charge, there would be some bigger circumstances around it, but the fact that he's been embroiled in this controversy, all we got was Stephanie McMahon showing up on SmackDown and saying a couple nice words about Vince McMahon. So yeah, it comes at a weird time. It's untimely. And again, they announced that it'd be Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon as co-CEOs. So Nick Khan's plan seemed to have worked. He seemed to have made his way all the way to the top, which is nuts. I mean, literally, he kind of he shifted his way through the entire company, the upper management, and made it to the top of the food chain, which is pretty wild as a guy has no wrestling background that I know of and hasn't been in wrestling in WWE as long as you would think to be in a position like that. And then Triple H announced as returning as executive vice president talent relations. I don't know how much he's going to have in creative and how much he's still going to have in NXT. I don't know, but it's a real big shakeup structurally, corporate wise in WWE right now.
I agree. I think the key thing with this is we always thought Nick Khan was preparing for a long-term sale of WWE. Is that still going in the background? Stephanie will handle the wrestling side of things, I believe. You've still got people like Bruce Pritchard there. Apparently today it broke that Bruce Pritchard's going to be in charge of head of creative. I don't know how different that really is to Vince, in all honesty.
Yeah.
I really wanted Paul Heyman or Triple H to get the pen, in all honesty. I really thought that them two would have been far better because they need to do something fresh with this, particularly if we're going to TV 14 now. The 80s is gone. We need to be moving on. Wrestling needs to get with the times, as it does in AEW every week. Really,
it does, yeah. But I made a video short about this about Vince when Vince retired. It's I don't think it's going to change a ton because it's the creative corporate structure that WWE currently has that needs to be overhauled completely. For it, I don't think it will matter who has the pen, so to say, in the creative aspect, who's the head of creative, because they have 75 writers underneath them that are coming up with their own storylines. So if you have 75 people underneath you coming up with terrible storylines, you're going to have to choose one of them because, you got a live show to come out with. So I think it's the corporate structure of creative, how WWE is situated right now, that no matter who's running the show, if the structure stays the same, I think the product will still be kind of what it is now and maybe not much better. You may see a little of implementation of certain things that may interest you because, let's say, Triple H is throwing that stuff in there. But I think in the end, if you have that many writers, that many cooks in the kitchen, eventually they're going to come up with a bunch of bad stuff anyways. So you're going to have to choose from some of them.
There's got to be one positive. We're not going to get Vince coming up to SmackDown 10 minutes before a show ripping up a script. At least there might be. At least they won't forget about long-term storylines. Hopefully, they won't set up stables with no leader and set up sort of angles and feuds with no payoff and put themselves into corners as they do week on week at the moment. That's the positive, I guess, of this. But we'll see what they do. It's interesting times. Vince, obviously, great legend of wrestling. It's a shame he's going not on his own accord. It's scandal as such. But let's see what they do there. Obviously, apparently, SummerSlam is going to be a TV 14 pay-per-view. Is this the way they go down? This is the route we're going to go down now. And if so, I'm interested to see how they implement that. Clearly, we're not going to be getting the Attitude Era gritty storylines we did get back in '98, but we may get the more curse words, that type of way. But I just want contenders, really. I want wrestlers to be in matches for reasons instead of contender matches week on week for no purpose, really. You know what I mean? You need to be building people up to be solid. We should have 2 or 3 people level Roman Reigns at this point. We're still a year on, and we're not at that point. All we've got is Roman Reigns. It's tragic, really, I think.
That's a really good point, though, because you would hope that you will get that continuity aspect, that the storylines will play out longer instead of just being trashed and scrapped that quickly. And like you said about the stables having aimless leaders, that may change as well because that stuff did fall on Vince McMahon. So there's certain things that fell on him that maybe we won't, you'll notice that it won't happen anymore. Hopefully, you would hope, anyways. Noob & Co. Everybody wants black and gold NXT as well as want everyone back and more indie wrestlers. I may be all about nostalgia, but I enjoy watching NXT 2.0. It's more about character development and storyline. What do you think about that one, Jonesy?
I'm an NXT black and gold guy. I prefer that. But NXT 2.0, compared to the main roster, yes, it's far more refreshing. You have got character development and stuff like that. But there's no reason why Raw and SmackDown can't go that way. We've got real characters instead of people fighting over stupid reasons. And that 24/7 division, they need to really
they scrap that one. Yeah,
that needs to be done. It's gone. It was fun at the start, but it's getting people on camera. But where's it going? If you're using this valuable TV time, you've got hours of TV here, and you're going into one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. You need to be putting people on there. Well, you can't even get the Intercontinental Champion on the card. It doesn't like Kevin Owens on this pay-per-view next week. Drew isn't on there at the pay-per-view next week as well. It's just they've got to really start being organised with these cards instead of chucking them out there for no reason.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I'm a black and gold guy as well. 2.0 is a little bit too colorful and kind of bright for my liking. But yeah, they do have some more fleshed out characters. And when they have a character, they'll actually kind of go with them rather than just kind of scrap it, change it up, and then you never see him again type of thing that we see in the main roster. But continuing in the same vein with Vince McMahon and the corporate shakeup and the head of the corporate ladder now in WWE is, can Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan coexist?
They've got to a certain point. They've got to be kind of amicable. It depends on what they want. Nick is only looking at assets. He's only looking at how to trim the fat, so to speak. Stephanie, obviously, will put her own McMahon mannerisms into probably the brand to a certain point. I think they'll get on because they have to, but I don't know how long term this partnership's going to work. In all honesty, I think, bear in mind, so many months ago, Nick was trying to get Stephanie out of the company. There can't be good feelings between them. I think they're tolerating it for business, but I don't know. I think it's going to be something that's going to be questionable unless the long-term plan of WWE is to be sold if the offer's good enough.
Well, it seems like Nick Khan ended up being the poison that Vince McMahon talked about when he brought in the NWO back in 2002. It
Nice
seems like this
flashback.
is the guy who is the poison. It really honestly seems, because it's just been a interesting turn of events since he's gotten to the company, and since he took in such a massive role. And now, yeah, he's trying to push Stephanie out before Stephanie's back. It's a really weird thing. It's not the two people you would have thought would have been running the company as co-CEOs. You thought it would have been Stephanie and Shane or Stephanie and Triple H when the eventual day that Vince McMahon left the company. Now, yeah, this is extremely strange. They're going to have to coexist, like you said. And it's just, Nick Khan really is just like he seems like he's just all about selling the company. He's not a wrestling guy. He doesn't really care about wrestling fans and what wrestling fans want to see. He just wants to make it as mainstream as possible. And I think that's what we're going to continue to get. We may see some more interesting signees based on Stephanie McMahon. I think she's a little bit more ahead of the curve on that. I think Nick Khan is just looking at how to make it the most profitable possible so that he can eventually try to push a sale.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Disney
the
or
reason,
NBC.
apparently Vince McMahon's been willing to sell for 5 years now. The only thing that stopped him is the offer. He saw that UFC went back in the day for £4 billion.
Yep.
He values WWE at a similar sort of value. If they get close to that 4 billion value, then maybe, but we'll see. I think the film with it is they've just got to sort of work. I'm just surprised Nick has been kept around unless it's going to be for a sale, really. He seems a strange person to keep around unless you want him there to get further advertisement deals and stuff like that potentially down the line.
Now, do you think Vince is soured on to Nick Khan after all that's transpired now?
No, I don't think so. Look at the amount of money he's brought into the club. Look at the amount of deadwood he got rid of. Not deadwood, that's probably incorrect. Sorry. So the amount of people he released that were going nowhere.
Well, that they thought was deadwood.
They thought deadwood. Yeah. Not all of them were sort of deadwood, but there's a lot of people that they released that were going nowhere. They were just collecting a paycheck by never being on TV and stuff. But it's brutal. He's been kind of brutal with this. And I think I'm just interested what role Triple H plays in this. As the VP, how much of a say will he get? Hopefully he'll get a good say, and we'll go back to seeing them indie wrestlers be signed, because WWE are no longer signing them. They were looking at 25-year-olds that were 6'6" and stuff like that, look like rugby players instead of people that have actually been in MLW and promotions like that as such.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'll see now going forward as to what the direction will be. You'll see it in the upcoming months. It'll probably be quicker than normal, but interesting because it's a wrestling company, but it's a corporation in the end. So this is what we're seeing. This is something you wouldn't see in any other wrestling promotion because they're not corporations. They're wrestling companies. This is a massive conglomerate corporation, multinational corporation. So this is the kind of stuff you see. It kind of is what it is.
I'm going to throw it out there, Anthony, as well. Sorry to interrupt you. One last thing. Could you imagine if Tony Khan actually buys WWE? That's something he's got the money to do that as well. So
he does
do that.
Yeah.
It would be a super company, like it would be WWE. I think it would be fantastic. Like, I would love to see that if he handles AEW, WWE the way he handles AEW. For me, I would love to see that all day long, really.
Yeah, I would. I would honestly like to see them work together first, and then give us all that we want to see, and then eventually do that. Because I think if Tony Khan comes in and buys the company, I think it's just going to be too much that he's gonna have to handle in terms of wrestling. He's got ROH, he's got AEW,
delegation. You'll have to delegate.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it will seem like he buys it, but storyline wise, it's somebody else buying it or somebody else is running it, and they're just all working together, type of thing. Kind of like that, I guess. Like how the when Vince bought WCW, he was gonna do WCW kind of like versus WWE, like he kind of did, but didn't have the stars. But something like that, and he was gonna create a new Nitro. Maybe you get something like that type of thing going on.
If it's done right, they will make so much money. Honestly, if it's done properly right and AEW is competitive, they come in on a competitive level. It's not just pushing WWE guys, and your main person isn't turning from WWE to join AEW. If it's done right, it's the greatest thing in wrestling. I think an invasion angle. I think it could be done so well, and this could get extra eyes on the product, which is what they need to do, really. I think.
I mean, second chance in an invasion angle because they botched the first one. It's a second chance.
This is all fantasy talk. Obviously, there's nothing confirmed.
Exactly.
I'd love to see it, really.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. Now, next thing on the list. WWE made an offer for ROH.
Yep. So when ROH came up, AEW obviously put the bid in as well. WWE were in for ROH as well, but WWE simply wanted to get the tape library.
Yep.
So it's a good job they didn't sign it. It's a good job they didn't get that deal done. Otherwise, there'd be no ROH. But it was just interesting to see WWE trying to go after ROH. But the fact they didn't have the appetite to try and set up another brand, does that surprise you in any way?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't surprise me. Like I knew when they made an offer, it was just for the tape library. That's the thing. Because honestly, in terms of dollars and cents, when it comes to ROH, the most thing of any worth is the tape library rather than the in-ring current product and the wrestlers and everything they bring, because they don't bring a ton in terms of profitability at this point. It's kind of, you got to do all the work at that point. But the tape library on its own goes on the network, brings a ton of people to show up. They get to see like CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, all those guys. You see a young Tyler Black, young Seth Rollins, all these guys you get to see at that point on a tape library. I mean, honestly, it's a no-brainer. But you know, obviously the purists want ROH to live and thrive, so it makes sense, you know.
Definitely, I think they should. If WWE would have signed it, I'd love to have seen them sort of get it done, but then put Gabe Sapolsky in charge of it. That's the route I would have gone down if I was Vince. To be fair.
It would have been cool. It honestly would have been, but they just don't have the room, and they don't have. Not only do they have the room, they don't have the care to do it
or attention to detail.
Yeah, exactly. Attention to detail actually make it work. Yeah, because it'd just be like another NXT type thing, and they have already kind of bailed so many times on NXT and switched things up that it's probably not going to work. What do we got here? We have, how does Charlotte fit into Ric Flair's last match?
Okay, so obviously we've got Ric Flair's big pay-per-view next weekend, his last match. Crucial thing, Charlotte is going to be there. There's some small details they need to iron out between themselves and WWE about whether she can appear on camera. If she is going to be there, clearly they're going to have this main event, which Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Jarrett's going to be there with Jay Lethal against Ric Flair and Andrade. Yep. Karen Jarrett's going to be there on the outside. I'd say put it out there as a prediction. Karen Jarrett will get into some sort of bickerment with Charlotte, and that's how she gets involved. That's the route I think they're going to go down. If that is if Charlotte's allowed to be there on camera, if that makes sense.
This is the problem, right? So Vince most likely would have allowed her to be there. I don't know if Nick Khan now will allow her to be there, because that's a big name star you have, big profitable talent that you have on WWE. But it is her dad and her husband's in the match. But the problem is her husband is an AEW guy, so it's like that's an old school thing that Vince would have let happen. He's done it before. What was it for Paul Bosch in Houston Wrestling? He did a retirement show over there. He let guys go over there. He's done favors for other companies, allowed likes of Undertaker to show up on Stampede Wrestling, stuff like that. You know, he's let other talent go to other promotions for a one night only thing because of favors or just cross promotion type things. He's done it before, but that's a very old school mindset that Vince at a point had. I think he would let it happen because it is the daughter of Ric Flair and the wife of Andrade. But I just don't think Nick Khan himself, if he's calling the shots on it, will let it go down.
There's two things. It depends if Charlotte's there at SummerSlam the night before, because they want the big return to be WWE based. That's the clear thing they want to push. I imagine her coming back to everyone's focus. Yep. Not on a WWE product could be an issue, but I think she'll come back at SummerSlam, which will override that. Another thing I would say is Jeff Jarrett's got a WWE contract and he's on the show. That might play into it. I think she'll be there and I think she'll be on camera. I think Ric Flair, he's done so much with WWE, even back in the 90s and stuff. I think they should let him. And I think Charlotte being on one show, just a goodbye show. Look at back in the day when we had Bret Hart at the old Terror Funk retirement back in '97. Yep. He was at a WWE contract. Mick Foley was WWE contracted then. I think she'll be there, but this is a spot for her. It'll be fun to see, but I always prefer Charlotte as a heel. But I think her sticking up for her dad, that'll be fun. And I think it'll be good to see on the pay-per-view if that makes sense.
That's actually a good point. I forgot about Jeff Jarrett. You know, he's obviously a behind the scenes contract he's got. He's also doing the SummerSlam tag team matches, the special guests for free. He's going to be there. So that's another interesting thing there to play a part in that. Now it's no official promotion that's running this, correct?
No, it's an amalgamation of different promotions. Okay. You'll have Impact Wrestling. You'll have some AAA wrestlers. You got a few others there. The card, to be fair, doesn't look bad. It looks like a very good show, even though it's like $100 on pay-per-view, I believe. It's absolutely insane, the price.
Yeah, it's gonna be ridiculous, but it is Ric Flair's last match.
Last match for now.
Him and Andrade.
We believe. We'll see. We'll see if it is his last match.
Yeah, you can't ever buy into that kind of stuff because Terry Funk has had how many last matches and he keeps coming back. Numiko, hopefully Charlotte Flair will get involved because she has to support her family. She does. Her husband, her father. It's the last match. It just makes total sense for her to at least be there in some form or another. Not maybe the entire match outside in the side of the ring, maybe in the stands. Obviously, she'll probably be in the stands. But I just mean like in terms of her actually being on television during that match and maybe even getting physical, like you said, with Karen Jarrett or something of that nature. We saw the beat down of Ric Flair by Jeff Jarrett in the parking lot, left him bloody, bruised up. So there's that animosity there, there's that emotion there. So it makes total sense if this is official last match, as he says, for them to play that up.
Definitely.
All right, it's time again. New segment that we debuted last week, the retro topic of the week. Then my guy Jonesy coming up with great stuff here with the retro topic of the week. And the retro topic of the week is bigger impact, Radicals or Hall and Nash. And what we mean by that is who had the bigger impact when they jumped ship. Was it when Hall and Nash showed up in WCW and the NWO was eventually created? Or was it when WWE signed the Radicals, that group, and them coming to WWE, showing up in the crowd? Who had the bigger impact? Now, I know the default answer is to say Hall and Nash because the NWO. It started the whole run WCW. But you got to think about it too. When the Radicals got signed, that was a big shot to WCW, and that kind of signaled that it's the end for them. And then WWE's not playing no games anymore. But Jonesy, give me your thoughts on this.
I think it's such a tough topic. Like when I came up with it, I was thinking to myself, both are so good for different reasons. If you look at Hall and Nash, the minute that Scott Hall first came up on Nitro, you knew that the stuff was going to get real. You knew that this is a WCW that's coming. Like they're on the up, if that makes sense. When you bring Kevin Nash, you really sort of added that as well. But the Radicals, it was so cool back at the time. We never really saw these wrestlers jump from WWE besides Chris Jericho at that point. And yeah, it's just such a big addition. But if you look at who came out as world champions, future world champions, you've got to go with the Radicals. Benoit went on to be a great world champion in the ring. Let's be clear about that. Eddie Guerrero, fantastic as well, world champion. Dean Malenko was a bad wrestler, Perry Saturn, but it's just that lift. I think they were one of the best stables to debut in WWE, like as a new stable. I think they came in, they made such an impact, and instantly it made WWE even more exciting if that was possible at that time.
No, definitely. And like, this is the interesting part. So like, again, everybody kind of will default to Hall and Nash being saying it's Hall and Nash. They showed up. Okay. It's two different things, right? So before Hall and Nash did that, you never really saw, or you never really noticed too much guys leaving one company to go to another, unless you were really in on the product. You saw a lot of guys that did that, but they didn't have names. Obviously Hall and Nash had big names. They did the curtain call in MSG. They leave Razor and Diesel behind. Obviously, we get fake Diesel, fake Razor. That disaster. They come over, and it's treated as if they're invading in the beginning, which was mind blowing and so innovative at the time. But the Radicals coming over, that's kind of like that's like the real big, like, okay, we're poaching guys from you. Now WCW did it to a point where they had Luger show up, and when they had Rick Rude show up and go double, he was on both shows. But those aren't like, those are guys that have name value, but they weren't big at the time. But you had the Radicals coming in. Now, not saying Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko were massive names, but it's the way it was done. It just seemed so different to anything else we had seen previously. It's like they took these guys from that company that we've been watching, they've been fighting with over the past few years and head to head and all that stuff like that, and they got them over here. To me, it's just, I think that's the bigger impact in terms of the Monday Night War, where you felt like they bookend each other. Honestly, they bookend each other, because like Hall and Nash showing up there is the start of it, and then the Radicals coming over kind of is like almost the end of it.
I've got to put it out there as well. Like with the Radicals going over, WCW was on their arse at this point. Chris Benoit was world champion at this point in WCW. He didn't want to be there. The fact he gave the belt up to go to WWE was such a big move at that time.
Yeah.
And with Hall and Nash, I think both of them had great similarities. Like the way that the Radicals debuted in the front row, it was almost like a shoot type angle. The way that Hall and Nash debuted, like they were invading it. These are great angles. This is the type of stuff I really think with a potential relationship with WWE and AEW down the line that could happen, that we could see again, which I think this type of stuff is missing in wrestling today, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff is always great when they add the realism to it. That's why, like, when you see promos when guys go real with them, like when you see John Cena and Roman Reigns really going at each other and it's real, there's an aspect of reality to it. That's the best kind of wrestling you can get, and it always hits. It never misses. It's always hits, and it's always well done. Martin Carrillo in the chat. What's up, Martin? What's up, guys? Never had a chance to welcome you back both. You both came back at the correct time. I appreciate it, brother. It is great to be back. It is great to be able to do this again and come up and stream and do the Rasslin Report and make videos again. So thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, so going back to the retro topic of the week, what do you say? You got to pick one. Who had the bigger impact?
I'm going to go Hall and Nash for me.
Yeah,
I loved Hall and Nash back in the day. I think it alongside Hulk Hogan's heel turn, this was a company that never made any money, and this is the only time we've ever seen a company overthrow WWE temporarily. So I'm going to go Hall and Nash.
Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to go Radicals, just because I felt like that. Like I said, they bookend each other. They feel similar in certain ways, and they kind of accomplish similar things. Not completely, but because obviously Hall and Nash were mainstays in WCW, and they became like the biggest stars there. The Radicals didn't, to a point. Eddie eventually become a massive star, and Chris would become a massive star as well. Dean and Perry Saturn not so much, but also made their impact in WWE. To me, it's just like it feels like a turning of the tide. So it's a good comeback story, because you have WWE at the top. They drop down after Hall and Nash and the NWO. They're losing. They get the Radicals, and they start making the comeback at that point. So I just think, for the sake of argument, the Radicals, it helped WWE survive, I think.
The Radicals killed WCW, going that jump to WWE totally destroyed WCW. Like any momentum they had, it hit them so hard, and never ever able to recover after that. Yeah,
it was a major blow. And not to mention, it's like all their younger talent, like not their main event guys, but the guys that they could.
It would almost be like people like I would say Riddle, Rollins, and a few others like Kevin Owens, a few others all jump into AEW at the same time. It might have that effect, I'd say.
Yeah, they're not the perennial main eventers, but they're there from time to time, and like they should be their bigger stars. All right, so next topic, and it simply just says Goldberg. What you got first, Jonesy?
Okay, so regarding Goldberg has got a deal now, which is he is there available for another match. So his contract, we all thought was ended, and he weren't available to do any more matches. He still has a deal that will let him do one further match, so he could be coming back at any time. Like that's potentially what they may say. There was talk of him coming back this past Friday on SmackDown when it all broke down with Brock Lesnar, like they did with WrestleMania a couple of years ago, where they rushed to Braun and Goldberg because Roman went home. They've got Goldberg on standby. I don't know when he'll be there, but he won't sign for anybody else until this contract's done. So it's an interesting move, supposedly.
Yeah, we'll get to Brock a little bit later in the show, but yeah, correct. So he's kind of like, at this point, all Goldberg is break in case of emergency type of guy. Like, they need an emergency, they need to fill in for the main event. Boom, let's just bring Goldberg in there. I still want them to do Goldberg Riddle. I mean, just do it. I saw the interaction that's been public. You saw them backstage talking to each other. You could just tell that it was weird. It was awkward. There's a lot of tension between the two, especially from Goldberg's side, him and Riddle. But yeah, I want to see it. I want to see them do promos against each other. I want to see them, really, really go at it. And I think that would have been a fun match for SummerSlam, to be honest.
It would have been a fun match.
Yeah, because there's animosity between them, and Goldberg's that type of guy who doesn't really know how to handle it well when it comes to beef like that. So I would have liked to see that. Hopefully we do get it, maybe for Survivor Series or even one of the in-between pay-per-views. But I think it would have been cool.
Would have been fun.
Martin Carrillo. Also, one thing to keep in mind is that how will the relationship between Fox and USA Network be now without Vince? That's interesting. That's a great point by Martin. Good shot by him. That's an interesting question. Do you think it has an effect? And is he the one that officially, like, does that change the fact that he brokered the deal? Was Nick Khan involved in the brokerage of the deal? I'm assuming he was. How does that play out?
I think the thing with it is because of the WWE clearly have all the control. USA Network, as we said on last week's show, have fallen that far down. They're not really a mainstream network as such anymore. So WWE being on them is a luxury. For me, I don't think it really changed anything. I'm not too sure how long the deal is of USA Network and WWE. I'm not too sure how long it's length for that contract, but I don't think it affects it. The contract's done for a while. Future TV deals that might be affected. We'll see what they do though. Really, I know that USA Network was pushing for TV 14. WWE didn't want to do that, so there are different ways, obviously, different wavelengths, so to speak.
Well, it would be awesome now if, with Nick Khan as co-CEO, they just go all in and just move Raw to Fox too. Just put it all on national television at that point. Like, you put it on Fox, it's huge. You make another $1 billion off of Monday Night Raw. To me, it seems like the most logical thing to do. USA Network is the network doesn't have anything. Nobody really watches it. It's a luxury to
So,
have. It's a godsend for them to actually have WWE programming.
so I'm going to ask you, for the people that are not in America, like people such as myself that are in England and stuff like that. So on your television system, then is USA Network a cable station, or is it sort of one where you'd have to get a package, or is Fox one that's on every TV, for example?
Fox is on every TV. You
So
don't
it's
need
terrestrial basis. So
yeah,
it
yeah.
means it's just
You don't need cable.
on. You got it.
Yeah, all you need is that signal, and then that's the channel you
Okay.
got. But USA, you have to pay for like a package to get like that. That's just basic cable. That like basic package that has all the
Yeah.
channels. USA's part of that. But that's just a regular cable. But
So Fox would be far better. Like in this country, we get AEW on terrestrial TV, whereas WWE is on BT Sport, which is a subscription. So for coverage, it would be far better, as you said. So SmackDown's on normal TV then, basically. There.
SmackDown's on normal TV. Yeah, you could watch it anywhere. Sometimes,
wow,
I'm pretty sure pretty much everybody has USA Network. I think it's just common that everybody has. If you have cable, you have USA Network. But Fox is that you have CBS, Fox, ABC, and NBC. Those are like the main four that everybody's got. Like even before, when you made the switch from everybody needed a cable box type of thing, if you just had like a regular cable coming out from the wall, you would get those 4 channels. So Fox is definitely that original one. Martin Carrillo says, but if they move Raw to Fox, wouldn't they change it back to 2 hours though? It depends, honestly.
I wish they would. That'd be fantastic if they went to 2 hours again.
That would be the best thing for them, but that advertisement that they would make in that third hour may be enticing for Fox to keep it 3 hours. Now, the problem you keep it in 3 hours, Fox has more original sitcom programming than probably USA Network does on a regular basis, Monday through Friday, maybe, I think. So it does cut away from some of that stuff because you're starting at 8 p.m. ending at 11. What do you do at that point? Do you have to change the day? You really can't because Raw is Monday. So it makes it a little bit difficult in terms of that.
Definitely, I agree. I think it makes it tough, but I can't see him dropping that third hour ever because of the adverts, unfortunately.
Yeah,
the ad revenue, as you said.
They make so much money off of that third hour, and it's just like, it sucks, but it is what it is. Next topic, The Rock endorses unlikely superstar and is to become WWE champion, correct?
Yep. So unlikely, The Rock this week came out and said he was a huge supporter, saying he believes this person should be a future WWE champion, a franchise player. He was on the Entertainment Tonight show this week and brought up the relevant person again. He said he loves this person's work ethic. In the world of pro wrestling, there's nothing like the world of pro wrestling. It's very unique. It's also a business, professional wrestling. WWE's in my blood. It's my passion. I love it. He's a guy that works his butt off. By the way, they all do, but him in particular, he's got great athleticism and he's a total package. The unlikely person, I'm interested in your thoughts here, and I think your face will drop, is Montez Ford. So Dwayne Johnson spent all his time plugging Montez Ford. What an endorsement. I thought that would be great. Let's see what WWE do with that. I don't think they'll do anything with it, but it was nice to see, I thought.
Well, it's interesting, right? So it is extremely the unlikeliest person you would probably think is probably like lower on your list of guys that he would probably endorse on WWE to be a massive star. But obviously between him and Angelo Dawkins, you see him, Montez Ford, as being the kind of the guy who's going to venture off from that eventually and be the singles guy, whereas Dawkins might be one of those guys who meanders around the lower card 24/7 stuff and then maybe just gets released or something like that. Hopefully not, but that may would happen eventually. I hope they keep them together because they need tag teams. That's one thing they need is tag teams that they don't have. But I just see Montez Ford as more one-dimensional in terms of a character, unless he comes up with something completely different. I don't think he's going to just be a superstar as Montez Ford, as the way he is now, just as a singles. I think he needs to go some type of transformation in terms of his gimmick, character wise, for it to actually be. I think he could be, because he does have a lot of charisma. Obviously, the athleticism is off the charts. He has a great look, physique, all that. He has the package of him and Bianca is great as well. I think he could be a star. I just think he has to completely overhaul the character portion of it and be somebody that's different, but also still have the core appeal that Montez Ford has right now. But just in terms of the character, has to overhaul it and to make it.
Sounds good. I agree.
different.
I agree with what you said. Like, I think you need to do stars in WWE. If somebody's got the charisma's not something you can teach, but he definitely has charisma. So I'd like to see him push him, get pushed. I think he's struggling in this tag team, so get him as a singles wrestler, turn him heel or something. It'd be fun to see.
Yeah, it's just like you want to see how much range he actually has in terms of a character. That's one of the things you want to see. And if he does, then you have a gem right there. But if he has a lot of range, now if he's just the same guy, he wasn't a tag team, I don't think it'll work.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah. Martin Carrillo, guys like Gunther and Montez Ford should be world champions. It just feels like they are really impressive in the ring, character-wise, not to be champions. I agree completely with that statement. In the ring, if you're just basing it on in-ring, these guys, yeah, they're going to be main eventers, top guys, stuff like that. But there's that package, that line that you kind of try to balance of because in the end, character trumps in-ring skills, because you see some of the biggest stars in the history of professional wrestling. Not all of them have been high flyers or tremendous match givers, 5-star matches, 6-star matches, the Meltzer stuff. That's the problem. You need that because that's more important than the other one. And if Montez Ford can have that, then I think he could be a star. Gunther, could he be? He's an interesting character. I think he's more of a special attraction type character rather than an everyday, every week SmackDown IC title type character.
I think I'd like to see Gunther get a big push. Like, obviously, he's the IC champion. The way they brought him in has been okay, I'd say. The name changes he's had haven't really helped him, but long term, let's put him up the card. Let's get him away from these stupid gimmicks and stupid stable. And then I'd like to see him as a singles wrestler going upwards, and potentially like to see him face Bobby Lashley down the line. That, for me, that could be a WrestleMania match that I think will be competitive.
Yeah, I think it will be too. But again, like it's just like Gunther is one of those guys. Like, he just looks like, he feels and looks like
is he another Cesaro? That's the $1 million question. Cesaro with the Nini Man.
Yeah.
And he was obviously European as well, and
Yeah.
fantastic in the ring, but just could never quite get to that next level above.
And I mean, he is ROH champion, right? Congratulations to him. He just beat, Jonathan Gresham last night, and he became ROH champion. So Cesaro, Claudio Castagnoli is champion. That's a whole nother can of worms there, him being ROH champion. But the thing is, like, so Cesaro just couldn't cut it in terms of on the mic with those bigger type talent. Like, I remember the time he was in the ring, the feud with Cesaro, with the feud of Roman Reigns, and it was him, Roman Reigns, and Daniel Bryan in the ring, and Cesaro just felt like he didn't belong whatsoever. And that was pretty much the end of Cesaro's main event run there. He just felt like he didn't belong. He was totally overshadowed on the mic by Daniel Bryan, by Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns toyed with him, tossed him around in terms of the mic skills and that, yeah.
I've had the film with it. Look like this. So Cesaro Claudio Castagnoli had 11 years in WWE, never won a world title. Less than a month in AEW, he's the world champion. WWE could have done a better job. He was with Paul Heyman originally. That could have been somewhere that got him the world title. But when you're against people like Roman Reigns and you just don't even get a look in, and you win these matches at WrestleMania against Seth Rollins and then don't go anywhere, it's no wonder. But good luck to him in the future. He's WWE's loss, really, I think. But good on him for going out and getting the world title somewhere else. It's just a shame he wasn't a main eventer in WWE, because I think he had that potential.
What's interesting thing about it is he wins the title without even saying a word, because he really hasn't cut a promo. He hasn't done much of anything.
He's not a Sean Talker. He's never been a Sean Talker.
He's not. But... So it's like it depends on how you book him. You book guys who aren't. Bret Hart was never a good promo. He wasn't. His promos aren't really that great.
I thought he was all right.
He's believable.
It's believable. Like, you can tell that he put his passion in it. But
yeah.
I think Cesaro is one of very little words, if that makes sense. But the less is and WWE with the whole Swin thing was a comedy act, and counting the number of Swins, it's one of them things. But hey ho, that's another subject and tangent altogether.
Big time, yeah. But Gunther and Montez Ford are guys that could be champions. They have the what it takes. It's just all about the character and getting that connection, making it work, making people care about him and stuff like that. I just think maybe Montez Ford has an easier road to that because he has more charisma, natural charisma, than Gunther does. Gunther, to me, is a special attraction guy. Does Vince leaving affect Theory?
Interesting question. So obviously Theory was a Vince McMahon guy. This push of Theory's obviously been based on Vince McMahon, it seems. Theory's the one with the briefcase at the moment. Him going, does that make a difference? For me, I think they're too late on this journey with Theory. He's already got the briefcase. The push has started. The trainer's already left the station. So for me, I don't think it affects him. They need new stars for the future. Theory clearly is one they want to get behind. He may not get the world title straight away, but it's just down to what they do after he cashes in. If he cashes in and doesn't get the belt, for me, I can't see him cashing in on Roman or Brock, to be fair. Like, I think if it's legitimate and it's in a match where he has to pin them, that's not going to happen. So his best chance really is next weekend when they're both knocked out, basically, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the Theory stuff is everybody saying, oh, he sees the next John Cena. It's, he looked at him. Vince looked at him. It's John Cena 2.0 type thing. I think that it'll continue. I don't think Vince leaving is going to change that. I'm assuming Nick Khan probably has a liking to him as well. I mean, yeah, he's a good-looking kid.
Very
good,
young,
yeah,
which
good
is the
physique.
future kind of.
Yeah, good physique. He seems like he has an annoying personality, so he may come off well on television as a bad guy, like he does. I mean, he comes off well. I'm not a huge fan of him taking selfies with everything. I just think that's kind
That
of
just seems that's
corny.
the childish thing. That's
Yeah,
the thing they
exactly.
need to kind of drop with that. What I would say for that, give WWE the credit. They've moved very, very quick to get Theory another big spot. If that makes sense. So obviously, the original plan was Cena and Theory at SummerSlam. When this whole Vince allegations broke and scandal broke, that John Cena distanced himself from WWE. He clearly got out of coming into SummerSlam because of he played on the insurance line. I think that's a load of nonsense. He just didn't want to be there because he knew that WWE was under a microscope, so to speak. But they've done well. And I think Theory will be fun. I think he's one for the future. My only slight concern is why they're booking him against Bobby Lashley in a corner. He's already got the money back briefcase. Him losing to Lashley, ever since he's had this briefcase, he's really been jobbing like week on week. You've now got Dolph Ziggler as a third wheel hanging about. There's a lot of things going on with Theory, which for somebody that potentially will be the next world champion, I don't think it's been done that well, really. I think, in all honesty, Theory needed to remain strong. Every time we've seen him in there with somebody, whether that be a Brock Lesnar or somebody else, he's got manhandled as he did this past week on SmackDown.
That is correct. So like the booking hasn't been great on him since he's won that thing. Yeah, why is he feuding with Bobby Lashley still right now?
It's a needless match. Why
Yeah.
couldn't we have I would have much rather seen a Brock Lesnar Bobby match. We've been crying out for years at this SummerSlam. If they would have built it properly, that's what I'd much rather have seen. You could have had Roman and Drew. You could have started that feud, which we're probably going to get at the next pay-per-view after. But it's just small critique, really. But in terms of going back to the topic, I think the push for Theory will continue. It's just what they do once he's the world champion. I don't see how he's going to have title defenses, if that makes sense, unless somebody's going to help him retain again and again, basically.
That's the whole thing.
Now Vince is
kind
gone.
of one of those heels who always has to cheat to win, have like certain circumstances.
It's the Miz. It's the Miz's run again, as we said last week.
Yeah, we said it last week. It's the Miz's run when he won, and then he lost to Bobby Lashley, and he was kind of just a transitional kind of joke champion. I don't think they just have to do better job at building individuals to be more realistically possible to be champions and have long title runs, meaningful title runs, which what they don't have right now. Next topic. Will Sasha and Naomi return now that Vince is gone? Now, was Vince the main issue as to why they left? And now that he's gone, is it an open door for them to come back and business as usual?
I think the thing with this is it's got to be a small thing to this. I think if Sasha wants out of WWE, the contract she's got is going to cost her so much money to get out of this contract. And every time she's away now, they're adding days onto that. The contract's not ending, not coming in closer to a close date. I heard something that they may do something with, say to Sasha, we'll let you sort of have the rest of the year off, but you can't go to AEW for the rest of this year, but you need to pay us some sort of money back. But I hope they come back. Sasha missing is a big sort of miss, if that makes sense. But she brings a lot of drama. So I don't know sort of they'll do that, but I don't think it makes a difference. I think Vince going doesn't bring them back unless Triple H and Stephanie got a better relationship with them. I don't see how you're going to get them back, really, unless they're going to use this as some sort of angle in the TV 14 film, which is what I would do personally. If you're bringing her back, let's do some sort of legit angle, a bit like the pipe bomb where you don't know what's going on, where she can then shoot, say what she wants. She can blame Vince if she wants to, but there's not much point to blame Vince because he can't even retort back. But I'd like to see him back, but I don't see it. I think they're gone, to be fair. Naomi may come back because of the Jey Uso connection and Roman Reigns and that type of thing. But for me, I think they're not going to come back.
Yeah, I think. All right, so it's interesting. So Naomi doesn't need WWE as much, I think, as Sasha does, because Sasha needs that bigger platform to continue to build upon her success outside the ring. I think personally, I don't think she's at the point yet where she could just now. She's out WWE. She can continue to get these big opportunities. I think she needs WWE to keep her kind of in that spotlight where she can continue to get and build upon the opportunities she's getting outside of the ring. So I think in terms of that, she may want to come back. Naomi doesn't really have to because she doesn't have anything else going outside the ring. She can go to AEW. She can go to Impact. She can go somewhere else and work and make a living. I think Sasha, because she wants to have that Hollywood glitz and glamour stuff that John Cena has, that The Rock has, that she needs to be in WWE just a little bit longer to continue to build upon that and get that to go down. So I think that what do you call it? So I think that's pretty much it. That's what she needs to get done. So I think she will come back. I just think, and I think they need her to come back as well. I think it's a mutual thing. Mark Carrillo, if you guys were Triple H, which 5 talents would you be calling, and what would you do with them Take it,
Are we
Jonesy.
calling up from NXT or are we going to AEW to try and get them out of contract? So we talk about people on the roster. Ricochet, he needs to be pushed. Like, he's a fantastic talent they've never really pushed. Damian Priest, he's lost in this stable. He's another one that should be up near the main event, in my opinion. Chad Gable is another one that should be up there. He should be Kurt Angle at this point now. I know he's not won Olympic medal, but he should be at that level now. If this was back in the day, he would have been up there. I think the fourth one, you're going to have to kind of look. Who would I push number 4? I'm just trying to think, really. I quite like Riddick Moss. I think he's quite good, so I'd quite like to see him up there as well. And number 5 for me, they're really going to have to sort of do better when Bayley comes back. So Bayley needs to be pushed at the top. I don't think she needs to be a baby face. I want to see her coming strong, really. If she's coming in feuding with somebody not for the title, it's going to be a big mistake. What about you?
Well, Martin says calling any outside talent sound.
Oh, outside talent to WWE. Okay, if we're going to go to sort of, if I'm fantasy, people don't have contracts. The first one is MJF. He's the one that ultimately he's the future. What WWE should be, really. This whole talking how you feel, saying how it is. Number 2, I think you've got to go to Fenix. Fenix does some fantastic in-ring work. Number 3, I'd like to go for Jacob Faso. He's obviously recently been in Impact Wrestling. I really like him. I think he's got a good look. I think he's something different. Number 4, I'd go Bandido. Bandido, I like his work. He could be a bit like a new Rey Mysterio. His mask, he does something. And then number 5, you've got to go for John Moxley. John Moxley's WWE, it's a storyline they've got to do, really, I think.
Yeah, to me, I would say John Moxley's first because of the history and the storyline you can create off of that. MJF second. Third, I'm picking Will Ospreay. I think he's a guy that needs to come in. And if it's TV14, I think he will flourish in that aspect. And I like the fact that he's put some weight on his body and some size on his body. I think that was the best thing he could have done. Personally, anybody other than that, I think you got to. I'm putting it as a 2-piece. You have to bring back FTR. You have to.
Oh, wow.
That's as 4 and 5. I think
Great.
Those are the guys. I think that. I think hands down, that's the best tag team on the face of this planet. I've been saying that for years, and that's the team that you let those guys go. It was one of the biggest mistakes you could have done. Completely, utterly buffoon mistake of letting those guys go. I think those guys count as 4 and 5. FTR need to be like back in WWE. That was stupid of them to let them go.
They didn't have a choice, though. They wouldn't sign the contract, would they? So WWE wanted them.
But it's just the bad booking. It's on them. It's the bad booking
of
the game. Yeah.
It's the same as always.
It's the same story.
If your name's not Roman Reigns, you're not getting a push. But there you go. That's another story.
Let's get some comments in here real quick. Nubenko Theory will be all right. He still got Paul Heyman and Triple H still invest in him. That is true.
I think it'd be fine.
Yeah, I think it'd be okay. It's just the booking.
It's just the defending the belt. Like, if he gets the belt, we think if he gets the belt at SummerSlam, he's obviously going to be having 6 weeks then to probably the pay-per-view match in Cardiff. Unless it's going to be him versus Drew for the title. But for me, it's not a big enough match. This is meant to be the biggest show in UK in many years. Roman has got to come out to pay for the belt. I can't believe I'm saying that. It's not going to be Brock. And unless Theory somehow mishandles the cash in and he ballses it up and then he's then able to cash it in the next night, maybe. But now Vince has gone. They need to give somebody else an authority figure to take over that Vince role really with Theory. It's going to help him rather, so to speak, give him these extra chances.
That is true, yeah. Nubenko, Sasha Banks and Naomi are definitely needs to get back. Yeah, I think especially Sasha needs to get back, yeah.
I got one as well. With Theory, you tell what I would do? This is an Attitude Era storyline. Controversial. Let's get rid of the full fall, so to speak. I actually think Theory should have an affair with Stephanie McMahon. And I think that's the route they go down on TV. Stephanie McMahon's commissioner. Let's do that. Like, let's try and do that route. You can eventually even do Triple H have someone represent him at WrestleMania, if that makes sense. I know it's not realistic, it's not real life, but that's the route it needs to go down. Theory needs to be getting this extra help from somebody. Why not do that storyline?
It's more shock TV too.
That's fun.
That's actually pretty fun. Yeah, that's actually pretty fun. It's not no lie because it's out there and you can have a lot of fun with it. I mean, you're not taking it seriously, but it's just one of those things. It's a wrestling.
Was turned into Vince Russo today.
It's a fun storyline, to be honest with you. I'd be into it. I mean, it's just like.
That's pretty extreme though, isn't it?
But it is because she's a CEO. So like now, but with all that's happened, you kind of can't really go down that route. But with if it didn't happen, it would have been a fun thing. But it's more of an out of the box storyline that they
and it helps him. Well. It helps him improve him as a character. He's getting that help still, and you know where he's getting the help from. And that all fits with what they've done. Now Vince isn't there. They need somebody to replace Vince that's going to help him. Because the slots he's been in, it's largely because Vince McMahon's given this chance. Yeah, you could be in the briefcase, Austin. You could be in the main event of WrestleMania, Austin. This type of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't know. It's just It'd be interesting to see. I mean,
There you
I'd
go.
be in for
Put it
that.
out
I'd be
there.
in for that storyline. I'm not gonna lie. Nubico, I hope fans of Asuka will be happy. Maybe this time Asuka will get pushed. I just think Asuka's kind of maybe run her course in WWE.
They need to turn
Honestly,
her into Kana. I've said this 100 times on other streams. Kana, when she was in Japan, was fantastic. I know Noob's a fantastic Oscar fan, but for me, when she's in this 24/7 division, what a waste of Oscar. When she was in NXT, when she's first there, she never would lose. She was such a wrestler. She's such a good wrestler as well. Let's turn her heel and do something with her. Turn her into
yeah,
Kana or something.
she needs to be having more of an interesting kind of
Yep,
run and
I
more.
agree.
Yeah, the heel thing might be the better way to go. Nubico, maybe Io Shirai will get called up to the main roster. I think she's
I'd like to see
leaving,
it.
correct? Yeah, she's leaving to Japan, right?
Is she actually leaving? I wasn't too sure. There's been mixed reports about that. It wouldn't surprise me if she's
What
there.
I heard is that she's all signs seem to point to her going back to Japan or something like that. So I'm not sure if she is or she won't. Yeah.
Yep.
Mark Creel would add. I would add W. Morrissey, Dakota Kai, and even Mickey James if she is available.
Dakota Kai, God, what? God, I forgot about her. Wow.
Yeah.
Some great. Mickey James, a great shout. Morrissey, good big man, but
I don't think he can come back unless he comes back with Enzo because he's gonna have that Enzo kind of. Enzo's kind of like the thing that's attached to him, kind of thing. So I think if he comes back to WWE, he would have to come back as Enzo and Cass again. Yeah. Mark Creel, to what Jonesy was saying about Theory and Stephanie Affair have Brock Lesnar be with Triple H since the story is there after the beatdowns. So okay, so Theory is for Stephanie and Brock is for Triple H.
You could do that. That's something to do. Unless you're going to do this whole Theory and John Cena at WrestleMania, maybe that's the match I think they're going to probably do. It's happening sooner or later. It has to.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah,
they want to give Theory that rub.
Back to what you're saying about John Cena. Obviously, he's separating himself from the company because he's kind of towing that line of Hollywood and all that stuff like that. So he doesn't want to be associated with anything that's going on in terms of.
Does this stop The Rock being associated with WWE this WrestleMania this year as well? That's exactly the same can of worms that we may have, which WWE really need to get. Now Vince is gone. Hopefully The Rock will come in because they still want to do Rock and Roman at WrestleMania. That's kind of an obvious one that they've been working on.
But that's why I think him retiring will kind of have everybody kind of forget about it because I think
but he can still say what he wants to happen.
Because this is the thing. It's like he says retiring, but again, I think it was because like if you retire, we'll stop investigating. Nothing else will come out. I honestly think that's the conversation that was had. If you step down, get out, say you're retiring, we'll stop in the investigation, and your image won't be tarnished anymore. Nothing will be associated. The company will be okay after that.
Yeah,
I think that's what what happened.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. So I think everything's kind of peachy now. People come back. Brock will probably show up, stuff like that. I think. Yeah. Final topic. Will Brock get punished for his actions on SmackDown?
So what we said with this one is obviously Sasha Naomi got punished for going AWOL. Should Brock be treated the same way? Clearly it was resolved after. Brock is a megastar, but for me, if you're having this risk that he's not going to wrestle for you after this pay-per-view, I wouldn't use him for a while. I'd keep him off TV. I know he's a megastar because you built no one else up, but you've got this time now from September to WrestleMania to push somebody else. I'm not saying they'll be the same level as Brock Lesnar, but how can you risk that? It's almost like the Ultimate Warrior back at SummerSlam 91, where he went into Vince's room, give me $1 million or I'm not going out there. You can't afford to do this. If Brock would have gone, that once again throws your SummerSlam main event in the bin, so to speak. You've done this match 3 times now. For me, he came back, so there's no punishment, but just don't use him after this show. That's
so the rumor is that he was not going to show up. He says if he's gone, I'm gone. So probably Vince is the only guy he'll work for, only guy he'll deal with, only guy that can probably.
This is on the build to SummerSlam. This is almost like me tomorrow going into work saying, unless my manager's there, I'm not going to go in. My manager's going on holiday for 3 weeks. It's almost like me doing that. You just wouldn't do it, would you?
No, I wouldn't. But like the thing is, I'm assuming what happened is they probably got Vince. Vince called him, or Vince got him on the phone. It's like, look, do this last thing. I know I'm not there. You don't got to come back. Do this last thing for me. A favor. Go to SummerSlam. Do your job.
But then to do that in the contract, like you would have thought WWE would then be able to sue him. Like the amount of money they put into the advertisement of Brock and stuff like that. It's a contract. I mean, you signed to do that match. The fact that it's the money it cost WWE by him going AWOL. You know what I mean? This is the unprofessionalism. This is chaotic. Brock is a megastar. Don't get me wrong, but WWE really need to build their own megastars instead of having to rely on people that can go AWOL at any moment. Really,
yeah, I mean, Brock is at that point where he kind of does what he wants, and who's going to say anything different to him? He's Brock. Nobody's going to step up to him and kind of.
Because you need the new Brock.
It's just saying you need a new Brock. You need a new star so that you don't have to deal with stuff like this.
But you need to do that, really.
Yeah. So it's like you need new people. So you don't have to deal with stuff like this going forward. You can't rely on certain people.
I guarantee if you'd have done Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, for example, at SummerSlam, Drew wouldn't be doing this. Got the week before the go home. 100%.
Yeah, because Brock doesn't really need WWE. WWE needs Brock. That's the difference right there. WWE needs Brock to be there to save them, to get the money, to get the ticket sales, to get the hype, to get
It's
the
a
big
mess, isn't
matches.
it?
Because they
It
got
is a
nobody else.
mess, though. It must
They
be
got
scary
because they have to
looking at.
rely on a guy who knows that you need him more than he needs you.
Yeah.
And again, he's probably the only reason he comes back as many times he does because Vince calls him, and he's Vince's. A lot of wrestlers love Vince and they'll do whatever he asks them to do if he's the one asking. So I'm assuming he showed up, he got the news, he's like, I'm out of here. I'm only working for Vince and nobody else, none other you guys. And then Vince probably called him and was like, look, man, I need you to do this. Just do this one last thing. If you don't want to come back after that, you don't have to, type thing. That's the only thing I can assume. And I'm assuming that's the way Brock Lesnar's kind of deal works. It's probably all handshake agreements between him and Vince. Look, you do this. We got this thing planned out for you. Show up this many dates. We'll pay you. Boom. That's it. I'm pretty sure everything Brock does is a handshake agreement with Vince McMahon.
Last question I was going to say, Anthony, before we end the show was,
Yep.
Does this promote a culture to the rest of the wrestlers? We can hold WWE up for money and go AWOL at any time. That's kind of, you're almost opening Pandora's box now, aren't you? I know Brock is an entity. What's stopping Roman Reigns doing the same? Oh, actually, he did do the same at the WrestleMania, didn't he, when he was meant to face Braun? He went home, not of the week off. It was the week off, actually, as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary times. I guess contracts, how valid are they? That's the thing.
You want me to be honest? Completely honest? Yeah. Other than Roman, I don't think anybody has the clout or the balls to pull it off.
Yeah, you can't blame him. Like, this is your job, millions of pounds and stuff like that. The only person I think that has the clout that would get away with it is Randy Orton. He's the only one of that level that could.
He doesn't really need it. Yeah, he doesn't really need it.
I don't think he'd do it because he's a company man. But this is controversial. The fact that they were going into SmackDown hours before not knowing if Brock was going to be there. It must be a nightmare being a writer in WWE with this at the moment and having to come up with Goldberg, trying to get Goldberg back and stuff like that. But we'll see. But after this show, wouldn't surprise if they don't use Brock for a while. He needs a break again. And then if you are going to use him at WrestleMania, let's do the Brock and Bobby match eventually. Everyone wants to see it.
That's the one that makes the most sense. Yeah, because to be honest, that's the only one that makes sense.
You don't want to see Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns 4, basically.
No, yeah, you don't definitely want to see that. But honestly, I don't think anybody has the clout to kind of pull it off. Maybe Roman has a lot of clout, but I don't know if he has that much clout to kind of just walk out when he wants to, type of thing. And they'll kind of just like, I mean, most likely he probably does. It's the only guy really they have that's built up enough to be, up on that level. But interesting times in WWE and AEW. There's something real. I want to tease this. We'll talk about it more next week. Do you think AEW dropped the ball in the MJF storyline?
Yeah, it's been awful for AEW. For the actual attention to detail, it hasn't been the best. It's CM Punk the pipe bomb without a follow-up. It's almost like what we'd see without a storyline and an ending. I think they're stuck though with that. MJF obviously has to come back. Last thing I would say with AEW, they're due a lot of comebacks. Like in the next month, I think we're due. Kenny Omega's going to be back. Bryan Danielson's back this week. And Adam Cole's going to be back as well soon. When all these people coming back, MJF's come back as well. They should be mentioning him on TV. The fact they're not even mentioning him, where does he fit? You know what I mean? Yeah. He was the hottest fit in AEW, and now he can't even get mentioned. They've got the ball.
Why go that route and then just force everybody to kind of forget about him? Because at this point, everybody's kind of forgotten about it. No,
I agree. It's a good topic for next week. Definitely.
We'll cover that one next week. Last thing in the chat, Mark Crew, if anything changes in WWE, I hope at least we start getting clean finishes. Thoughts on that?
I hope we do. Clean finishes apart from in Roman matches. I think they have to do that. If you are going to do a screw job finish, be it at the benefit to elevate a feud, to get another match out of it instead of just doing it for no reason, really. A lot of that's down to booking yourself in the corner, though. If you're going to put a match together for a pay-per-view, you got to want one of the competitors to lose, really. And if you got two people that are on win streaks, you're not going to put them in the match together. Generally.
Somebody's gonna win and lose. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. Yeah. You can't do a ton of distraction finishes, music hitting, and then you kind of just roll up, stuff like that. You just do too much of it. You need a breath of fresh air. Clean finishes, honestly, surprisingly as is a breath of fresh air right now for WWE.
As we said last week with the whole sort of Seth Rollins Cody Rhodes feud, where Seth had lost 2 times, even by the time they went to the Hell in a Cell. It's just it needs to be even, and it needs to have a reason. I think if you're going to do a screw job finish, it has to be the benefit of the storyline. It has to get something out of it. It has to be somebody turning. Like, we're going to probably get Dominic turning on Ray tomorrow night. That's going to have to go somewhere. If it's going to be Dom joins Judgment Day at the moment are like watered down. Where's it going? That's what I'm always thinking when I'm seeing this wrestling. Where the storyline's going. If everything has to have a purpose instead of just be putting out there for a week and then never followed up.
Yeah, screw job finishes, non-clean distraction finishes need to have purpose, substance to them if you're going to do them as many times as WWE does. But guys, we appreciate everybody tuning in for the Rasslin Report.
Thank you, guys.
Episode 9. We'll be back in next Sunday, same time, same channel. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Any last words, Jonesy?
No, thank you all for watching. Next week, obviously Sunday, we'll have won't go too much in detail. We'll have our SummerSlam thoughts. I'm sure we're going to have something to talk about at SummerSlam 100%. But yeah, thank everyone for watching. I'll be interested in the comments what everyone thought of the Stephanie McMahon storyline. Let us know if you think it's too crazy or would you like to see that in WWE?
Yeah, if you're into the Stephanie McMahon storyline that Jonesy brought up, let us know in the comments. Appreciate everybody who joined us and chatted with us. Noob and Co, Martin Carrillo. Appreciate you guys. Another episode in the book of the Rasslin Report. We'll be back again next week and appreciate you guys for tuning in. Catch you guys on the next one.